So I haven't done one of these audio messages in a while, and who knows why that might be. It's particularly Washingtonian in its nature of the weather right now as I walk around the campus. I think the reason why I haven't been sending my device audio messages directly is that I've been sending through my device audio messages directly to specific recipients, namely Jason, and I think I've exhausted my ability to do that because it's just gotten so intense. Life is fairly floaty these days. I feel fairly good. The weather has been compatible and comfortable in a way. Though it is raining, it's relatively warm. Much warmer than last month, that's for sure. I think a lot about my space and my connections with individuals, as well as the lack thereof. What connections I am not proud of or satisfied with. Specifically, I think that I had a lot of energy last season and was fairly adamant about connecting with people regarding different things and different modes of experience, and all of that is to say that it's kind of shrugged itself off a bit in a way. I don't think that that's a bad thing, though I struggle with the idea of good and bad way more than should be struggled with. I think that there's a desire to be and there's a desire to exchange being with an active and settling principle. And that's just probably a very simplified and eccentric way of saying we're constantly looking to change. Humans are constantly looking to evolve. There will be no satisfaction. And that extends to every space in life. But of course we're all growing and we're all decaying. We're all morphing and changing. And so biologically, because that's happening, at least through the lens of time, all we can do, I think, is create analogies of that biological change and project our understanding of the biological change onto everything social, cultural, aesthetic, emotional, as our awareness sees fit. And none of that is good or bad, but because it's something that, because the factors are so dynamic and they're so responsive or in response to those biological factors, as our awareness is biological, we have so many feelings that come out of physical sensations. There's this incredible excess of anxiety and instability, disabling and remarkably rigorous attention is put into trying to figure out who we will be simply by who we are growing into as the context or the vocabulary And I struggle with that. In a lot of ways, it totally tears away the form of having just beautiful human relationships, and has transformed life into a space of completely intolerable instances of being immersed, and being immersed in one's self. An inescapable void of the self, maybe, but in a way that it becomes not only the spot lit, but the spotlight as well, an extension of both, thus a combination of both as the image. Of course, that helps people to be the center of their own attention, and destroys people in being the center of their own attention, because in criticism, in critique, in reflection, in catharsis, even in compassion, to recognize one's and the world's own suffering, it takes away from any other being. One might almost say it dilutes everything, distills everything, it soaks everything in a reflective sheen, which may or may not be true. I don't know. All I know is the burden of my own consciousness, which is impacted directly by those recent texts that I have read, those songs that I have listened to, those lectures that I have heard, those images that I have encountered through my waking and unconscious life. All of the experiences and moments in the conception of time, all of these things contributing, all of these layers stacking upon one another. And that's all we have collectively too, is this kind of rational system of what many philosophers have deemed worthy, as empirical, as observable, as a beneficial kind of sequence, because it lines up, it all adds up. And that's the good, the bad, and the ugly lining up. The case for the absolute, the indispensable, the true. We all are having these experiences. It's kind of funny to think about truth in terms of the collective, in terms of everybody's own sprawled self on top of everybody else's sprawled self. One amoeba worth of I was gonna say asphyxiation. We're all smothering ourselves, aren't we? It's kind of perfect too when you think about how it all aligns. It all aligns. It does in a way that is really dissatisfying or really heinous. That that we are so allowable. Our instances. I can walk by this smoker station at my college, and I can smell the cigarettes, even though it's been probably hours, or I don't know, minutes, since the cigarettes have been extinguished in this rainy climate. And yet, I can smell them. And I can smell the memory of my own smoking. And it is so dissatisfying to smell that, but it is allowed. The people that are filled with hate, the memory of my own hate, the moments where I have the urge to think of hate as something that I can feel, but it is allowable, and it is disagreeable, and it is representative of as much the individual as it is the world around the individual. And to be able to recognize it, to be able to recognize these components of existence, of perceivability, of possibility, if we are aware of them, if they cross paths with everything that goes through awareness, then they ultimately start to become something that is ourselves. If we don't think of them or feel of them, then at least in a moment or in a sequence of time, they may not mean anything. But of course they do, because we can't escape what exists in our mind and in our heart when we are not aware of it, because there's so much else gunking it up. But that's another topic altogether. And now it's getting cold, and I haven't really walked past a single person except perhaps all of the people that exist, and all of the people that exist in the rain and the foliage, and they're all, of course, wonderful people, even if I can't pay attention to them. And I walk back to the library where I work, and think about how I might be able to take whatever I've thought of and put into thoughts, composed, whatever I've composed, and then utilize it into a form that might aid the many that I am, that I intersect with. Of course, not knowing truly what that means in the broadest sense, but perhaps it will, by having thought it and felt it, dilute itself, again, to use the word dilute, into something that is effective and affective, something that can be honed and impacting. But alas, that's enough for now.